everyone. This is part 2 because I did a live about 1:30 this afternoon, my time, to talk about the morning's findings from Nicola Bulley's inquest. Don't worry if you've not had a chance to catch up on that live. It was about an hour long because I'm going to go through the whole day. I think it's kind of better to just go through the whole day so that people who didn't catch that live can still understand what's going on. So I'll start from the beginning. Today was Nicola Bulley's inquest. It actually only started at 11 a.m. by the looks of things. It was scheduled to start at 10, but it started at 11 o'clock my time. So they went for maybe an hour and 15 minutes before they broke for a break. So they're actually really only doing like half a day, which is why it's over 2 days, because they only got back from lunch at 2 p.m. So yeah, so it's only really about 4 hours of testimony. But they've heard from a lot of experts, a lot of witnesses who were there the morning that Nicola went missing. So, yes, we are going to debunk some nonsense. Let's debunk the rumours, says Purple AJ. Well, we've got a lot to debunk. A lot to debunk. So I've already had some people unsubscribe from me this afternoon. I don't know. I don't think that people can handle the truth. I'm here for the snark. Well, I can tell you that some snark is going to come. So if you don't like me being snarky, here is your 5-minute warning, because the snark is going to start in 5 minutes' time. Just giving people the opportunity to get in here before I go through the day's proceedings. The reason why I could not attend the inquest, I wanted to go. Inquests in the UK are public. They're public. Anyone can go in. However, given the interest in this case, they'd limited the places available to 100 places. I didn't know this until last week, right? Because I don't know. I don't take notice of things that go on in the outside world. And I didn't know. I had no idea. But I found out last week. And by the time I found out, all the places had gone. So there's that. Yeah, you had to apply. So, yeah. However, I have put in a Freedom of Information request under the Freedom of Information Act 2000 for the coroner's report, coroner's correspondence, anything during the coroner's investigation. Also, I want all the materials that were presented at the inquest. So everything that the public saw at the inquest, I want to see. It's publicly available information. So I should be able to receive it and then share it with you. It's publicly available information. No, I wasn't invited, Dove. No, this is the point. I wasn't invited. No, I found out in the local press. I just happened to come across an article in the local press. I would have had no idea. If I hadn't have seen the article, I would have turned up this morning and turned away. But because I didn't have my name on the list. So no, I wasn't invited. No, I really wasn't. Anyway, so everything that was shown at this inquest, all written reports, all video that was shown, I want that. And I also have requested the autopsy report. Now, I don't think I'll get the autopsy report because they tend to be locked down here in the UK. They're only really available to family members. They're not a public document. So I don't think I'll get that. However, I've asked. I might as well ask while I was sending the email to the coroner's office. I might as well just ask for everything. So they've got 20 working days to reply. So once they reply and they send me whatever they're able to send me, then I will be sharing it all with you. So until then, what we've got is information that has been presented by reporters who were in the room. Okay, so I found this from the Lancashire Post, who were reporting live. So they were updating live. So I'm going to use this. The Daily Mirror were also reporting live as well. So I'll take a look at that just to see if there's any kind of anything that is not included here, because these are very brief updates. The Daily Mirror seemed to be putting together a little bit more information in each post they were making. And then we'll have a look to see what the news have reported. So the news at lunchtime, Sky News did a short piece. So we'll have a look. But I think we're able to debunk some rumours here and some myths. Yeah. So get ready for the snark. If you don't like the snark, well, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. So we do now have a cause of death. The cause of death was drowning. We don't yet have a manner of death. So the difference between the cause and the manner of death, very important. People really do misunderstand this. So the cause of death is how you died. So what was the thing that caused your death? In Nicola's case, it was drowning. Pretty comprehensive from the pathologist, the Home Office pathologist who did the autopsy. The manner of death, however, is why you died. So there's a selection that the coroner can choose. So it could be homicide, suicide, accidental death, misadventure. There's probably more, or undetermined. So we don't know the manner of death until the coroner makes his conclusion, and that will be tomorrow. So it was originally meant to be just one day, but they've moved it to go over 2 days. But it seems to be that the majority of the experts and the witnesses have spoken today. But apparently there's going to be 5 more witnesses tomorrow, including Nicola's family and Nicola's GP, her doctor, is going to be speaking tomorrow, after which time the coroner will make concluding statements, and that will be released. So most of the time undetermined. No, undetermined is unusual, honestly. Okay, we already know it wasn't a homicide. We already know it wasn't homicide from the get-go, because this was not a criminal investigation. A coroner's investigation is not a criminal investigation. A coroner's court is not a criminal court. I don't know how many videos did I make? Trying to explain that a coroner's court, a coroner's investigation is not criminal. If this had been a homicide suspected, this would have been a criminal investigation run by the police, not an investigation run by the coroner. Anyway, it's not homicide. The medical examiner has said so. Okay. All right, so let's read through some of, well, we're going to read through all of this. All right. And I'll keep stopping to discuss. How do they rule out her not being pushed? Okay. Well, how did she get in there then? All right. Okay. No, I'm not looking at chat while I'm reading this because I've still not had my other computer fixed yet. Okay, so Lancashire's senior coroner, Dr. James Adley, begins with a message to the family and friends of Nicola. I'm sorry you attend the court in these circumstances. He then clarifies what he should refer to the mum of 2 as during proceedings, and the family requests that she's called Nikki. Oh, there's a new suspect in the Stephen Lawrence murder. Ooh. Okay, Dr. Adley makes it clear he will be dealing with the facts of the case, with the hearing in no way designed to address any social media theories. It's also not to deal with the Lancashire police investigation. That's the subject of a separate inquiry. So this is about Nicola, about how and why Nicola died. Nothing else. Not theories, not speculations, not social media numpties, nothing like that. And it's also not an investigation into the police. It's an investigation into how and why Nicola Bulley died. And while I'm not looking at the chat, if you can please be respectful of Nicola's family, her friends, and just of Nicola and her case in general, because there's been too much. There's been too much dragging of the family and the friends. It's been horrendous, and that needs to stop. It should never have started. But given that the inquest has shown that there is absolutely no third-party involvement, then there is no need for any of that to continue at all. If you want to say those things, say them in your own head. You know, just keep your mouth closed, your fingers off the keyboard, and say it in your own head. All right, do that if you can. Okay, Dr. Adley confirms extra security measures are in place at the inquest, given the unprecedented level of social media numpties in the case in January and February. He's also taken the unusual step of warning anyone who does disrupt the inquest they may be in contempt of court, and he's going to take them out the back, and Michelle is going to shoot them in the head. Okay. The first witness is Dr. Alison Armour, the Home Office pathologist. So she's the one who did the autopsy. So those people on Twitter saying this is a whitewash, this is all the police and the coroner and everybody in cahoots to cover things up. Why would all of these experts cover up the death of a perfectly ordinary woman? Why? Why? Why would they risk their careers and their reputation to protect a perfectly ordinary woman, or to lead people to believe that it was something that it wasn't? All right. No. Okay, a warning at this point that some detail in this feed may be extremely sensitive, as it will go into detail about Nicola's death. Dr. Armour says that in her examination, Nicola's face, particularly her forehead and her hair, were covered in mud. So that leads me to believe that she went in head first, but that could obviously just be a build-up of mud post-mortem. She had a wound to the bridge of her nose and eye, but evidence suggests that came post-mortem, so after death. The reason why they can tell it's after death, does anybody know the reason why they can tell the difference between wounds or bruising or anything damage that occurred before death and that occurred after death? Anybody? All right, I'll tell you. Because when you die, your blood stops pumping. So you don't get the same level of injury, the same level of bruising after death as you do before death. All right. You don't also get an immune system response because your immune system's not working. So you don't get swelling at the area. So if you fall and you bang your head or you bang your knee or something, what you will notice in the minutes and hours after, you'll notice bruising, which is burst blood vessels under the skin. You also notice swelling, which is an immune system response to stop the nasties getting in. All right, neither of those things occur in injuries after death because the immune system isn't working and your blood isn't pumping. Thank you, Geraldine, for the £2. Thank you, that's so kind. Rest in peace, Nicola. Absolutely, absolutely. All right. Okay. Well, not only is it not oxygenated, it's just not pumping. It's not pumping. So you don't get bruising or swelling. Okay. All right. So Nicola had a very small amount of alcohol in her system, but it's consistent with the post-mortem process involving bacteria. At the time of her death, she had no alcohol in her bloodstream. That's my opinion, confirms Dr. Armour. So a body that's been deceased for 23 days, as Nicola was, given the level of decomposition, which would have been slowed considerably given the water was cold because it was winter. However, bacterial decomposition occurs even if it's cold, and the results of that bacterial buildup, it produces alcohol in the body, which then registers as alcohol, right, in tests. But they look for, if you've got alcohol in your bloodstream, it means that you've very recently had a drink, very recently before death, all right, because your blood stops pumping. So if you've no blood, if you've no alcohol in your bloodstream at the point of death, then there won't be any alcohol in your bloodstream after death, will there? Obviously. But the buildup of alcohol in the tissues is the thing that will register if they do a test on the liver, for example. But that's just a result of the bacterial decomposition. So I've got a whole playlist. Oh, I've got a message. Sorry to interrupt, but I'm getting an Indian. Do you want anything? No, thank you. Okay. Actually, get me some poppadoms and some mango chutney. Okay. Get me 4. Or maybe only 4. All right, sorry about that. Just one Indian. An Indian takeaway.
I got a whiff of the tandoori on the way home.
Oh yeah, the tandoori is good. Yes, that's absolutely the case. Yes, I've got a video on Shanann's autopsy. I talked about the alcohol. Yeah, and yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. Even very, very young children have kind of register alcohol in the system if they've been dead a while. Shanann Watts, of course, had been buried for 2 days. So you've got that bacterial buildup. And of course, Shanann was murdered in summer, in August. So obviously the warmth resulted in fairly rapid decomposition in Shanann's case. Okay. I've got a whole playlist of autopsy videos if you want to, if you're into autopsies. I know they're not everybody's cup of tea. All right, cause of death. Dr. Armour concludes that the cause of death based on her evidence is drowning. She was alive when she entered the water. No indication she was assaulted or harmed or of any third-party involvement confirms Dr. Armour. So that means no evidence of sexual assault, no evidence of strangulation, no evidence of injuries to the head that could contribute to a death, no evidence of stabbing, no evidence of a gunshot wound, Nothing, no evidence of any type of assault. She was alive when she entered the water. The reason why they know she was alive when she entered the water was because there was water and dirt in her lungs. So if she was dead when she entered the water, there wouldn't be water in her lungs. Now, there might be a small amount of water, very small amount of water that got into her mouth. For example, if she was already dead, but not all the way down into her lungs after death. So she was alive when she went into the water. Okay. Next witness is PC Matthew Thackeray of Lancashire Police, and he's an underwater search specialist, a police diver of 8 years experience. So the hearing is being shown an aerial shot and images of the scene to go alongside PC Thackeray's evidence. One shows the drop from the bench, that was the centre of the search, down into the water. So we know that it was a steep embankment. I've got to go to the next page. Kind of working backwards here, so back. Okay. All right. So we know that it was a steep embankment from the bench to the bank, and then it was a steep drop down. It said on, I think it was the Sky News report at lunchtime, that PC Thackeray had said it was only a metre from the edge of the bank. So a metre is a yard, 3 feet, from the edge of the bank to the water. I think it's higher. I estimated it to be between 10 and 12 feet from the edge of the bank to the riverbed. That's what I would estimate it as. But it could be less. All right. Some people have said it's more. But anyway, there's a steep drop. And it was very cold. So on the day that Nicola went missing, which was the 27th of January, it was cold here in the UK. It was the middle of winter. It wasn't as cold as it had been in December, but still it was cold. And in the water, it was just 4 degrees Celsius, which would have felt more like freezing. It's almost freezing. Freezing is 0 degrees Celsius. For those of you who work in Fahrenheit, that is 39 degrees. 39 degrees Fahrenheit. If fell in accidentally, there's a lot of spelling mistakes here, but they are, don't worry, you know, they are just posting this live. So there's spelling mistakes. If fell in accidentally, cold water shock would probably have taken effect, Thackeray said in the video being shown. So cold water shock was talked about more by a further expert who said that she would lose consciousness in that coldness, you know, a sudden, unexpected fall into almost freezing cold water sends the body into immediate shock. The heart rate increases considerably, your blood pressure rises, and you lose consciousness very, very quickly. Estimated between 20 and 30 seconds. That's one of the other experts that spoke afterwards. It just takes your breath away, and you know, just a few gulps of water and you then start to drown because you're just panicking, you're in shock. Okay, the water looked quite calm in the video, but DC Thackeray, is he DC or PC? Because it's important. Police, PC is police constable. DC is detective constable. So DC is, you know, outranks a PC. But anyway, who cares? Right. DC Thackeray believes on 27th of January, the last day Nicola was seen, there was a downstream flow that was about twice as fast. So the video that they took was in April. If you remember, they went and did some tests in April for the coroner. And the river was very calm in April. I went, the last time I went was the 2nd of May, and the river was really low at that point. But in January, you know, that we'd had rainfall, and the flow was stronger. It's probably not in this, but it's in some reports. I talked about it this afternoon. He said that the river was flowing probably a little bit faster than walking pace. And walking pace is 3 miles an hour. So if you think about a river moving at 3 miles an hour, I estimated it to be only about 1 mile an hour, but obviously I don't have the tools. I was just eyeballing it. So I eyeballed it too slow, honestly. But it obviously some days it's going to move probably slower than others. Depends on the water volume and stuff. But again, other reports from Thackeray said that it's likely her body would have moved 1 meter per second. So I worked it out in the other live stream, and that would mean that she reached the weir, which is about 400 yards downstream, not 400 feet, as I said earlier, 400 yards downstream. And she'd have reached the weir in about 6 minutes. Okay. All right. In parts of the video shot in April, DC Thackeray is in bits of the river where it's too deep to stand. He doesn't need to swim, though, and is being pushed along by the flow of the water, which he says is at gentle walking pace. It's believed to have been far faster on January 27th. So he's just flowing along when they did the tests in April. Okay, Thackeray says on the day when they searched the river, you could swim against the current, but it required real effort. So here's the cops turning up. That's County Hall in Preston. Images show police patrolling outside County Hall amid the fears of people trying to potentially disrupt proceedings. Such was the social media interest in the case. Okay. All right. On the day Nicola Bulley was last seen, the deepest part of the water, so this is at the bench, was 4.6 meters, and she was 154 centimeters tall. So 4.6 meters is, well, 4 meters is 13 feet. Let me just work out 4.6 meters. I work in feet and inches, so 4.6 meters is actually 15 feet. So in the middle of that area where the bench is, there's a warning on the tree next to the bench that says danger, deep water. For a reason, it is deep. That water is deep. Nicola was 154 centimeters tall, so I don't know what that is in feet. Let me just do it. Okay, so 154 centimeters. Okay, 5.05 feet. So she was only tiny. All right. So it doesn't matter how good a swimmer you are. It really doesn't matter how good a swimmer you are. Yeah, we do need a conversion table. That's what I'm doing. I've got one up. I don't think she did suffer, honestly, because she was unconscious within 20 to 30 seconds. That's what one of the experts said. So, yeah, it was cold. Cold, cold, cold. Okay, next witness, Professor Michael Tipton and Dr. Patrick Morgan will now give evidence as experts in drowning and how bodies react when exposed to cold water. So presumably, you know, not only is the coroner, the pathologist, and all the police, the whole police, they're all involved in this cover-up of this murder, right? We've also got experts. Professor Michael Tipton works at the University of Portsmouth, apparently. I don't know where Dr. Patrick Morgan works, but they're in on it as well, obviously. All right, so Professor Tipton described as a world expert when it comes to cold water immersion. There would be a particularly powerful cold shock response, says Professor Tipton, when discussing the temperature of the water in the River Wyre on January 27th. Considering Nicola's size, it would have taken 1 or 2 breaths in of water to be a lethal dose for drowning. That would be just under 2 litres of water. Because obviously, if you fall in, you're going to take big gulps. Okay, the time which you could hold your breath in this temperature is less than 10 seconds, potentially 1 or 2 at best, explains Dr. Morgan. You could lose consciousness in just 48 seconds. Only 20 to 30 seconds of that will be functional consciousness. So essentially, after 20 to 30 seconds, you're beyond the point of being able to think. You're beyond the point of being able to save yourself. No manner of death until tomorrow. No manner of death until tomorrow, because the inquest is going over 2 days, and it will be only after the whole of the evidence is presented will the coroner give a conclusion. Okay. So 20 to 30 seconds is the amount of time you've got to save yourself. You know, probably by 30 seconds, you're virtually unconscious, if you're not already unconscious. Professor Tipton says, in my opinion, given the nature of the likely entry into the water, I would suspect Nikki had a gasp response under the water, initiating the drowning process. On the balance of probability, there is a fairly rapid incapacitation due to cold shock. Okay, next page. All right, so that was lunch. That was lunch. So after a couple of hours of evidence, the hearing will now break for an hour and resume at 1:50. Okay. Well, Sky News were reporting at like 20 past 12, so they must have had a guy on the outside who he just spoke about the first 2 witnesses. So that's where we got up to at the first live stream that I did today. So this is now this afternoon. So another expert witness, Dr. Lorna Dennison-Wilkins, is the first witness of the afternoon. She is an expert in body recoveries from water, especially inland waterways, but she's in on it as well. All right. She's also a police dive advisor and has produced a report from Lancashire Police. I assume she means for Lancashire Police. Okay. All right. So we don't know what she said, because we're moving on to the next witness. As I said, these are actually, that person probably just said, yeah, I've given a report in. I don't know. Because 7 minutes later, we've got the next witness. Kay Kiernan is the first of the members of the public to give evidence. So now, remember, we can start getting into the real nitty-gritty here, because the people who said that Nicola was murdered by Paul or Emma, and it was Emma that drove the kids to school, and nobody saw Nicola really. Nobody at all saw her. Well, actually, a lot of people saw her. All right, a lot of people saw her. So, but all of these are in on it as well. All right, they're all in on it. Okay, all right. She's dropping her children off at school the same time as Nicola and saw her. So that's Kay Kiernan saw Nicola. Not Emma, saw Nicola. She says Nicola seemed normal, the same as any other day on the school run. She was how I normally know her. Her mannerisms were normal. I had a chat with Nikki about dogs. Okay. So not only did she see her, she also spoke to her. Also spoke to her. Not Emma, no, Nicola. All right. So we know the difference between Nicola and Emma. All right. Okay, good. Good. The conversation lasted 2 to 3 minutes and was entirely normal. Kay is allowed to leave after her brief evidence. Richard Fife, another member of the public, will now have his evidence read in court. Okay, so Richard Fife has given a statement. Based on the length of his dog walk, he saw Nicola between 9:10 and 9:20 a.m. She was looking at her phone screen, which he'd seen her do before. From previous reports, we know this is a work meeting. So remember, she had that work call, that conference call, Microsoft Teams call that lasted half an hour. So started at 9 and ended at 9:30, but Nicola hadn't logged off. We actually know the time that she went into the river. We know the exact time, actually, that she went into the river, but we'll get there. All right. So another member of the public saw Nicola, not Emma, Nicola. All right. After Richard Fife's statement, we move on to Claire Chesham, another member of the public. Claire Chesham interacted with Nicola at school shortly after 8 a.m. Nikki walked past and we did the normal smile and nod of the head, as she always did. She gave my dog a stroke before carrying on, which was very normal behavior. So not Nicola, not Emma, Nicola. All right, there we go. All right. Okay. Was there a ball? Because people went nuts about a ball, a tennis ball. Oh dear, the tennis ball was in on the cover-up. So Claire continues. She had them there on previous occasions, but on that day, I did not see any evidence of her having one with Willow, her dog. I mean, look, come on. She could have had a ball in her pocket. Who cares? Who cares whether Willow was chasing a ball or not? All right. She's now describing seeing Nikki on her dog walk after the school run. So not only did she see Nicola at school, she also saw her later as well. All right. So Claire says, it was a very quiet morning. I think there was another dog walker, but they left the field. I was keeping an eye on the gate because another mum is considering walking down, but she didn't enter. And I didn't see anyone enter. Didn't see anyone enter. Now we'll play the footage. We'll play the footage of all these locations after, just to reacquaint ourselves, because it's been a few weeks since I did a live stream or any videos actually on Nicola Bulley that really focused on the footage. So we know that gate is directly behind the, actually we'll play it now. We'll play it now. So Claire left the field at 9:15 a.m. All right, let's get the map up first. Let's do a bit of map time first. just to reacquaint ourselves with where we are. All right, share this tab. Okay. So we're all very familiar with this. If you followed the Nicola Bulley case extensively. So this is where the bench is here. This is where the bench is. So the road here, all right, Garstang Road. There's a gate there. You come through, all right, and then you walk up the river path. You go along there, and then there's another path along here, and then you get to a gate right here, which is where the bench is. It's just behind the gate, just behind the bench. The gate is just behind the bench. All right. And then you've got the lower field, and then you've got the upper field. And I think probably what walkers do is they just walk around like that. When I was last there, it seems that there's a path. It's not an actual path, but it looks like it's well trodden around the edges of the field. That seems to be what dog walkers do. And I have witnessed people doing that, just walking around the edge. So probably, and I timed it. I did a video where I timed it all, and it's about right getting Nicola back here about 9:20. Okay. All right. All right. Okay, so she was keeping an eye on the gate because another person was meant to be coming, and she left at 9:15. Okay, so let me just go back to this, because one of the big issues was, why was there no CCTV? So I discussed this extensively during my many videos on this case, and there's no CCTV in here. It's a field. It's a field. There's no CCTV. Now, there's CCTV at Rowan Water. Yes, it was working, but there's no CCTV. No CCTV in the field itself. But this CCTV at Rowan Water at the gate here showed that Nicola had not gone through Rowan Water, or no one had come out or gone in Rowan Water at the time. All right. And then there's also CCTV at the Grapes pub. So she hadn't come back through this way, and she'd not gone this way, because she'd have been picked up by the Grapes CCTV and also the CCTV at the garage. So she'd not gone that way. If she'd gone that way, she would not have been caught on CCTV. Why, I hear you say? Because there isn't any. Right? This is the school right here. Right? I walked it in 2.5 minutes. So it's a 2.5 minute walk from here to the beginning of the river path, which is here. And there's just 2 properties here, which are set back from the road, and the church. So if the church has CCTV, clearly it's not able to reach the roads. Nicola was not caught on CCTV because there wasn't any in that 2.5 minute walk from the school to the river path. Okay. All right. Oh, thank you. Thank you for the 99 pence. That's very kind of you. BCTV, a different videographer with opinions. Thank you. Thank you. Exactly. People think that because the UK is full of CCTV, that literally everywhere, including the middle of fields, would have CCTV. No. If you're in a city, right, we are the most surveilled country in Europe. If you're in a city, you're on CCTV everywhere. If you're on public transport, you're on CCTV. But if you're in the middle of a field, you're not on CCTV. Why would they put CCTV in the middle of fields? Right, when I go out of my house and go for a walk in the morning, I'm aware of one Ring doorbell camera on one house. Now, there might be more. I'm just aware of one. All right. But if I wanted to slip out of this house without being seen and, I don't know, go and commit a murder, I just know not to go past that house. And I go out of my back gate straight into the fields instead of going the front way and round the road, which I normally go, because I've lost the key to my back gate. So I can't get out of my back gate into the fields. It's in the house somewhere. It's just one of them. So if I wanted to go and do something like a crime, I would go out my back gate into the fields and I would not be seen. I would not be seen at all. I wouldn't even exist. I'd creep up on you without you even knowing, right? For those of you who are on my list. Okay, that said, let's go on with this. I will show the footage later. I've decided. Okay. Facebook message. Waitress Lucy Marcella is the next member of the public to give evidence. She contacted Nicola on January 27th on Facebook Messenger with regards to their kids getting together to play the day after. Okay, Nicola replied to the message trying to set up the play date, and she made this message at 8:59 a.m. It would have taken place on Saturday afternoon. So January 27th was a Friday. So Nicola was planning a play date the day after. Yeah, I know. It's a big padlock though. I'd have to get it off to change it. I suppose I could climb. Could I climb over? Potentially I could climb. Yeah, actually, I'd climb over. So it'd look like I'd not even gone anywhere because the gate wouldn't be open. All right. Okay. So if this woman, Nicola, was suicidal, would she be planning a play date for the day after? I don't know. Okay, so that was due to take place the day after, Saturday afternoon. Lucy tells the court Nicola was planning to join some other mums for drinks on Saturday night. So there was actually two plans. There was a play date for the children, and then there was a drinks event on the Saturday night that Nicola had planned to go to. Okay, campsite owner gives evidence. So village campsite owner Penny Fletcher is now giving evidence via video link. Okay, arriving at the scene. Penny is telling the court about taking her dog for a walk at 9:30 a.m. on the morning Nicola disappeared. She's describing how she found a phone on the bench that became the centre of the investigation, as well as a dog harness. On finding Nicola's dog, she also tied Willow to the bench. I saw a Springer Spaniel loose, was near the bench and going right towards the river where it drops down very steeply. I wouldn't say it was acting chaotic at all. It was a bit giddy, yes. All right, so this is Penny's own words. I know some of you think that Penny did it, but I don't know what to tell you. All right, so Willow was near the bench going right towards the river where it drops down very steeply. So what was Willow doing there? She was hanging out at the bench, right? Sees someone coming, goes to the river. What is Willow doing there? She's signalling. She's signalling that that is where Nicola went. That is where Nicola went. Huh. Yeah, but you see, the thing is, the two houses, like I said, I'll show you the footage. I'll show you the footage when we've got through this, right? Look, from here, the school, to here, there's only two houses. They're set back from the road. If they have doorbell cameras, they would not capture the road. They wouldn't. They've also got high fences. And then there's the church. Now, the church is set back from the road. If the CCTV at the church, it's not going to capture people walking past. It might capture people walking towards the church, like actually in the church grounds, but it's not going to capture people walking on the road. Why would it be set up that way? It wouldn't. Okay. And there's no other CCTV. Now, this is 2.5 minutes. And I was walking slow. So if you were walking fast, you'd do it easy and under 2 minutes. So let's think about dash cam footage. Okay, now there's not a lot of people actually, really, that have dash cam round here. Like, yeah, work vans and things like that do. Taxis do. But the average person doesn't have a dash cam. Bike helmets. Now, it's perfectly conceivable that nobody with a dash cam and nobody with a bike helmet passed her in that 2-minute walk down the road. Yes, the press got it wrong. Do you know why the press got it wrong? Because they believe Peter Folding. She's not in the river. You know, that complete actual dick swab. Absolute dickhead. Real, I've really disliked that guy. Because he was the one that whipped the press up into a frenzy. It was Peter Folding who did that. Dickhead, honestly. All right. Okay. So Nicola's phone was live, according to Penny. There was no sound, but she could see male faces on the screen. So the meeting had ended probably, and there was just male faces on the screen. All right. So she had to rush off for an appointment, but made several calls about finding Willow. Later on, she found it was Nicola's dog and learned that she'd gone missing. Penny's now confirming that she found Willow's harness halfway between the bench and the water. So one of the other big pieces of nonsense, total pieces of nonsense, was that the lead was missing. No, the lead wasn't missing. The lead was connected to the harness. So it's all one thing. Right? It's all one thing. Yes, you can detach the lead from the harness. If you take the whole harness off, you don't take the lead off and then take the harness off. You just don't do that. Okay. Next member of the public, Susan Jones, is now giving evidence. She received a call from Penny after she found Willow. The call was made around 10 a.m. Susan Jones is describing how she arrived at the scene and found the phone now locked and Willow tied up, as Penny had described. She then bumped into Anne-Marie, Penny's daughter-in-law, who attempted to contact the family via the school, having recognized Nicola, Paul, and the children on the phone lock screen. So it was Anne-Marie, Penny's daughter-in-law, who either rang the school, went into the school, whatever. Okay, so she tried to contact the family. So it was the school, wasn't it, that contacted Paul, I think. Okay, so when Paul, Nicola's partner, arrived, she handed the phone over and he was able to unlock it. Susan's husband, Roger, is now taking over. So Roger is the next witness. All right. So all of these people are in on it as well. All of them are in on this big cover-up. All of them. Every single one. Okay. All right. Roger Jones. So Roger Jones took his dog for a walk around 9:45 a.m. He found Willow tied up and only found out what was going on when he called his wife. Roger Jones has clarified a couple of points, but his brief bit of evidence is wrapped up as Dr. Adley establishes the course of events that morning. Okay, 8th member of the public. Nurse Helen O'Neill will now answer questions for Dr. Adley. She is another person who was dropping her children off at school and who knew Nicola Bulley. So someone else who saw Nicola. It was normal. I didn't think anything of it. It was normal to see Nikki getting her dog out of the boot, right, of the back of the car, says Helen. Okay, so that's Helen. All right, now it gets really interesting. She's now describing, so this is still Helen, she's now describing how shortly after 9:30 a.m. she heard a scream. So this is not Jodie Sue Brown. We've not switched cases. This is someone called Helen who heard a scream. I pictured in my head it was two females, teenagers, walking on the river path, and one jumped out on the other. I didn't think anything of it until later that night. I'm used to hearing the noises from the school, but not at this time. So she heard a scream about 9:30. Interesting. Now, listen, when you're drowning, right, when you're actually drowning and you're gulping in, you are not screaming. You cannot scream when you are drowning. But if you lose your balance, what does your response do? You emit a sound. You might scream. So there might be one scream. And then within 20 seconds of being in the water, she's losing consciousness. So this is not continual screams. This is just a scream. Police never mentioned a scream. No, because the police don't give away all of their evidence. Because during the police investigation, they didn't know what had happened to Nicola. So during a police investigation, they keep the details presented to the public to a minimum. Why? So that they don't interfere with an active and open investigation. Okay. All right. Okay, another person heard a scream. Veronica Klassen, I think that is, from the local tennis club, is next to give evidence. She also heard the brief scream, thinking it was children having fun at the back of the graveyard. It didn't concern her and sounded more like something that comes from an element of surprise. So let's go back to the map. And it would be useful to know where these people actually were. That would be helpful. Maybe another report has it. So this is where the bench is. This is where Nicola fell in. All right. So this is where the church is. So if somebody's standing anywhere around here or even outside here, I don't know if she was at the tennis club. Where's the tennis club? Do we know where the tennis club is? I don't know where the tennis club is. Oh, there it is, tennis club. All right, that's where. I don't know if she was at the tennis club. Oh, there's the tennis club. The tennis club is right next to the school. So she thought it was coming from possibly here, but Nicola is just here. So remember, sound travels in straight lines. So, and it's very, very quiet, right, in those fields, very quiet. The road's busy. The road's really busy. But that's very close, isn't it? She's there at the tennis club. You'd have to be outside to hear it, I would think. Like if you're in your house with the telly on, you're probably not going to hear it. So, yeah, interesting. So a brief scream, but didn't concern her because it's just one scream. Okay, after a brief break, we're back. So a 20-minute break, now we're back. Detective Superintendent Rebecca Smith is the next person to give evidence. She will talk us through the evidence found in their investigation. As a reminder, this hearing is designed to find the facts around Nicola's death, and there will be no commentary or examination around the police investigation, which is the subject of a separate inquiry. So currently being taken through the timeline of events as per the evidence we've heard from 9 members of the public. Nicola sent an email, a Facebook message, and then joined a Teams call while walking her dog after the school run. So we know the timeline. I don't think there'd be too many surprises in the timeline, honestly. But next page. Okay, so this is the timeline. Okay, so we've got some names now attached to these timings. So, you know, the internet numpties can now go and harass all of these people. Bye-bye, Teffy the Water Gypsy. Going back to the start to see it all. You're not going then, you're just rewinding, but goodbye for now. Timeline changed. Well, it didn't really. It changed a little over the 23 days because they were learning more information. But anyway, okay. So 9:10 is believed to be the last time Claire Chesham sees Nicola. All right. So the last time she's seen in person is on the field. So again, this is the field. I think Claire saw her on the upper field. I think the last person to see her was on the upper field. But they've not said it here, but I think it was in the upper field. And she was watching the gate. Now, if you're right at the bottom of the upper field, you're going to struggle to see this gate. But if you're kind of along here, you can easily see that gate. I'll show you in my footage at what point that gate becomes easy. She was watching the gate because of somebody else who was potentially coming on this walk with her. So she was watching the gate, so she knew no one entered. This is the important thing. She knew no one entered, and then she left about 9:15. Okay. The last human interaction was on Nicola's phone at 9:18, where the volume and side buttons were used. So presumably Nicola spoke. I'm assuming what that means is that Nicola spoke. But analysis of the phone would show that she turned the volume on. So maybe turn the volume on to speak and then turn the volume back off again, like muted out again. So the police's precise timeline continues. Penny Fletcher is believed to have arrived at the bench around 9:35, where she found Willow running loose and the harness. So we have heard 9:33 previously, but I don't know if you want to say that if you want to say that 2 minutes is a time change, then it's a time change. But anyway, all right. So Paul tries to contact Nicola. Call details show Paul Ansell. So these are absolute times. These are times from the phones, right? These are not just what people have said. These are times from the phones, all right? So call details show Paul Ansell trying to ring Nicola 6 times between 10:40 and 10:47. And he also sends a WhatsApp message. At 10:50, Anne-Marie Fletcher calls St. Michael's School, having found the phone, but not knowing how to get hold of Paul. At 10:54, a member of staff at the school calls Paul, informing him the phone and Willow have been found. Paul then calls Anne-Marie Fletcher at 10:57, the one where he informs her that Nikki has been struggling. So this is where the commentary came in, where the police were concerned about Nicola's state of mind because she'd been struggling. She'd been having issues with the menopause and with alcohol. So that commentary was fed in very early on. Presumably, I would imagine Paul thought that maybe Nicola had done something to herself, or she'd wandered off or something like that. We don't know. We don't know. We are going to hear, however, tomorrow from her doctor. So we're going to hear that information tomorrow. All right. So we don't need to speculate any further until we've heard what her doctor has to say. So, unable to get hold of his partner, Paul calls 999 at 11 a.m. At 11:10, did I say 9? 11 a.m. At 11:10 a.m., Paul arrives at the bench where the others have gathered, having found Willow and the phone. So there's a little group of them now. All right. So Detective Superintendent Rebecca Smith reiterates earlier witnesses by saying there is no indication of any third-party involvement in Nicola's death. Trawling through CCTV and ANPR data. What's ANPR data? ANPR data? Does anybody know? Hold on, I'll look it up. ANPR data. Oh, okay. Okay. Automatic number plate recognition. All right. So as a vehicle passes an ANPR camera, its registration number is read and instantly checked against database records vehicles of interest. I didn't know that. See, they can get you always. But trawling through CCTV and ANPR data, there was no suspicious people seen in the area at the time. Okay. Detective Constable Keith Greenall. He's now giving a presentation to the inquest as a digital specialist for Lancashire Police. So GPS data. DC Greenall is taking us through the GPS data found on Nicola's iPhone and explaining the testing done on the device. The phone was intact and there was no sign that it had been in the water. Well, the GPS isn't very useful because all the GPS is going to tell us is where Nicola walked. And we know where Nicola walked because she was seen, but they have an exact track of Nicola's walk. All right. So she hasn't made any deviations and then taken back to the bench. She was just doing a normal walk. All right. Of course, it's possible. It could be something else. Yeah, it could have been. Could have been something else. Doesn't necessarily mean it was Nicola. Could have been a kid screaming. It could have been anything. But it was just brief. It was just one. So you only really get concerned when you hear screams and it keeps going, right? If I heard a one-off scream, I wouldn't think anything of it. I'd just die quietly or something. You know, I would probably in my head be sarcastic, but I wouldn't be concerned about it. All right. It's only when it's prolonged that you think, oh God, what's going on? I'm going to go and have a look. Going to go and get involved. Exactly. I don't think she knew what happened. No. Very quick. Which is if you've got to die, then if it's your time, then you want to die quickly, don't you? Okay, this is interesting. So along with her car keys, the Fitbit was also recovered from Nicola's body. So between 8 a.m. and 9:30 a.m., it recorded 4,548 steps. That's a lot of steps. That's a lot of steps. And then after 9:30 a.m., no further steps were recorded. So that tells me that Nicola went in the river at 9:30. That's what it tells me. And of course, the Fitbit, if they were able to recover data from it, which they clearly were, then they'll also have recovered the route. So they'll have the GPS from her phone, and they'll also have the data from the Fitbit. So that's facts, isn't it? All of you people saying, no facts, just speculation, just people's opinions. No, these are facts. These are facts. So 400, no, hello, Noodle the Doodle. Hello, Noodle. Hello, Noodle. He's a noodle boy. He's a noodle. He's a noodle. Noodle's here. Noodle's here. Noodly. What do you want, Noodle? What do you want, Noodle? I don't think he knows what he wants. So between 8 a.m., so kids get ready for school, she's rushing about, presumably, and 9:30, recorded 4,548 steps. Steps stop at 9:30. So they won't have GPS from Fitbit, only know of steps and heartbeat. No, the GPS is from her phone. But do Fitbits not record routes? Does that not what is that not what Fitbit does? I don't know. I don't have one, and I've never had one. But yeah, Fitbit are also in on the conspiracy, as are Apple. You know, they obviously, you know, Apple decided to rig up something to show that Nicola's GPS just did a normal walk. So where did the steps stop? Well, if they don't record routes, then we don't know. Somebody's just said that they don't record GPS. So we don't know. No, yes, the steps are recorded off a phone, but this is relating to the Fitbit. But they would get steps off a phone, yeah. But this is from her Fitbit, specifically from her Fitbit. So along with her Mercedes car keys, a Fitbit watch was also recovered from Nicola's body. Between 8 a.m. and 9:30 a.m., it recorded 4,548 steps. After 9:30, no further steps were recorded. So the Fitbit had gone in the water with her, and after 9:30, no more steps. So that tells me she went in that river at 9:30. So I think what happened is she sat on the bench. She had the phone on the bench. She was just relaxing, listening to the rest of the call. At 9:30, she got up to put Willow's harness and lead back on, and she fell in. That's what it tells me. That's why the harness is halfway down there. I think she bent down, putting Willow's harness on. Maybe Willow jumped up. She lost her footing. It was very slippery. She lost her footing, dropped the harness, slipped down the embankment. That's where she screamed. And then she just fell in. She went into cold water shock, and she lost consciousness within 20 to 30 seconds, and she was gone. That's what this is all telling me. That's what happened. And now we've got the data to prove it. So that's all for day one, with proceedings starting again at 10 a.m. tomorrow. So that's from the Lancashire Post. So I'm going to also have a look at what Daily Mirror has said, because the Mirror was doing updates as well. This thing, you have to turn it on to turn it off. All right, let's just see if they've got anything further, because they were doing longer updates this morning. So let's just read this afternoon's. Okay. So I read this morning's in the previous thing. Actually, I'm going to read it all. I'll just read it. I'm not going to comment too much. But I'm just going to read it all, just for the sake of completeness while we're here. Let's just read it all. Okay. Nicola Bulley died as a result of drowning and was alive when she fell into the water, a Home Office pathologist has said. Dr. Alison Armour, giving evidence at an inquest at County Hall in Preston, said watery fluid and fragments of dirt found inside Miss Bulley's body were typical features we see in cases of drowning. She added that Miss Bulley was alive when she entered the water and there was no evidence she was harmed. Miss Bulley's mum and sister wept as the pathologist gave evidence at the inquest. Nicola had not been drinking before her death. Although there was some alcohol content, this was a result of the body decomposition and produced by bacteria rather than consumed. Dr. James Adley, senior coroner for Lancashire, asked Dr. Alison Armour, who was giving evidence, at the time of her death, she had no alcohol in her bloodstream. Dr. Armour replied, "That's my opinion." Okay. There was some bruising to Miss Bulley's body, but these did not contribute to her death, the inquest was told. Dr. Adley asked the witness, "Is there any evidence of third-party involvement playing any part in her death?" And she replied, "No, there was not." She also denied that there was any indications that Miss Bulley was assaulted or harmed in any way, as we discussed earlier. So there was some kind of wound to her nose. So that was after death. We discussed that earlier. So just rewind. I discussed the ways that you can find out if a wound happened before or after death. So a police underwater search specialist said he believes Nicola Bulley fell into the river before floating downstream. A video of PC Matthew Thackeray in St Michael's on Wyre in Lancashire, where Miss Bulley is believed to have fallen in, was shown to the court. In it, he said there is large vertical slope from the bench into the water. On the day, there was a steady flow downstream. He went on, the river was 4 degrees, which is 39 degrees Fahrenheit, so almost freezing. If she fell in, the muscles would probably seize, making it difficult to swim properly. He estimated she would have floated at 1 meter a second downstream. So do the math, right? 1 meter a second, it's about 400 yards. So that's 365 meters from the bench to the weir. So 1 meter a second, you are at the weir in approximately 6 minutes. At the speed that he said it was going. So the river was at high tide when Miss Bulley went missing. A police diver has said Mr. Thackeray showed a video to the court of himself floating over the weir with ease, while saying the river level on that day in April was lower than at the time Miss Bulley vanished. So the river level overall was lower in April. It was. Most of the Fitbit range do have GPS inbuilt. Hold on a minute. Kyle's got a Fitbit. Kyle, what? Does your Fitbit have GPS? Yeah. Can you see your routes and stuff? Yeah. Ah, right. I've got Fitbit expert who does exercise with his Fitbit. This is Kyle, my son. He has GPS and he can see his routes. So if Nicola had a Fitbit with GPS, then they would be able to see her routes. There we go. Maybe some of the older Fitbits don't. Kyle, do all Fitbits have GPS? He says all Fitbits have GPS, but maybe a really, really old one, maybe like Fitbit 1.0, maybe didn't. I don't know. What? I have the worst one. He's got the worst one. What do you mean by worst one? One with like the least features? The cheapest one. He's got the cheapest one, and that has GPS, and he can see his routes. That was some junior stock. Yeah. Oh, dear. All right. Okay. So we have GPS from the phone. We'll also have GPS and a route tracker from the Fitbit. All right. Okay. So Mr. Thackeray could float over the weir. Floated right over the weir, even when the river was lower. So this part of the river is tidal. So the river downstream of the weir becomes tidal. So when we were here, it was flowing downstream. On the day, by the time we arrived, it was low tide. That means it was high tide earlier in the day, potentially pushing things back up. His team arrived around 4 p.m. on January 27th. So, of course, it was nearly dark. 4 p.m. Dark by 5 easily in January in the UK. So Mr. Thackeray said that on the day Miss Bulley disappeared, the temperature of the water was around 4 degrees C. That's 39 Fahrenheit. Inquest has shown a video of the diver in the river during the investigation. In the clip taken in April, it can be heard saying, "That would feel very, very cold, almost freezing if you fell in." The cold water shock would have probably taken effect and caused you to gasp for breath, cause your muscles to seize up so you can't swim properly. On whether it would be possible to climb out of the river, so this was at the bench, he added, "No, not at all. It's very difficult to get out of the water here." Okay. So 2 breaths of water could have been a lethal dose for Miss Bulley, an expert has told the inquest. Professor Michael Tipton said, "We estimate the temperature would have been 3 to 5 degrees C, so an average of 4. So there would have been particularly powerful cold shock response. For somebody of Nicola's size, it would have taken 1 or 2 breaths in of water to be a lethal dose." Cold water expert Dr. Patrick Morgan said Miss Bulley may only have been able to hold her breath for 1 to 2 seconds at best. He told the inquest, "After falling in, the heart rate goes up excessively high, the blood pressure surges excessively high, the heart pumps no blood, and the brain switches off. The potential conscious time here quoted are optimistic. It's potentially shorter. On the occasion that the individual has taken that initial gasp on the surface of the water and then gone below, the duration would be 10 seconds that you could hold your breath, and very likely 1 to 2 seconds at best." The temperature of the water on that day Miss Bulley went missing meant that someone would lose consciousness within roughly 20 to 30 seconds. So Professor Tipton told the inquest, "In my opinion, given the nature of the likely entry into the water, I would suspect Nikki had a gasp response under the water, initiating the drowning process." So you can drown in 6 inches of water, right? So once you're in, she hit rocks. Remember, she hit rocks. So get your son to run round the block without his phone and see if it records GPS. Mine doesn't, only when you've got your phone with you. Yeah, but Nikki did have her phone with her. So I'm not talking about the Fitbit recording her route after she died. We know she was alive when she went in the river. I'm talking about the place she went when she was alive, not when she died. So she did have her phone with her. Okay. All right. On the balance of probability, there was a fairly rapid incapacitation due to the cold shock. It was also heard it could have been an estimated 20 to 30 seconds before she lost consciousness. On how a person would react to entering the cold water, Professor Tipton said, those first seconds in the water, people really aren't considering anything else. We have heard people talk about roots to grab onto and points of safety, but you would not be thinking about that. You are preoccupied with attempting to hold your breath and get back to the surface. There is no normal logical cognition going on. And she may even, right, she may even have been, you know, she hit the rocks. She would be winded. She would be disoriented. She'd be under the water. She wouldn't realize it was only 2 feet at that point, and she probably tried to swim, and she went into the middle of the river and died. Peter is an absolute dickhead, right? You can quote me. Peter is a dickhead who told everyone she wasn't in the river, even though there were no reeds. Go back and watch my previous video. He said, doesn't find bodies when they're in reeds. Nicola wasn't in reeds because there are no reeds. So there we go. He's an absolute, complete and utter dickhead. Right? The police didn't find the body, no. However, because so many people were looking for her, she was found very quickly. 23 days is quick. Very quick. Obviously, people don't know my background because they don't bother to... A lot of assumptions, Michelle. Not making assumptions. These are facts. These are facts. Facts from experts. Facts. Just because they don't fit these conspiracy theorists, and the conspiracy theorists now have to scramble. They have to scramble around in their little brains. You know, they have to put their brain cells together. They've only got 2 each, right? They've only got 2 brain cells each. So they've got to scramble, put them all together to make at least half of a complete brain. And then, try to work out how they can now explain how the facts don't fit their conspiracy theories. These are facts. Facts. I am not guessing. I am quoting the facts from the inquest. Go and sharpen up your 2 brain cells and come back when you are ready to listen, because these are the facts from the inquest. Good Lord. Nicola Bulley's body may have sunk under the surface of the river after she fell in, an underwater search expert has said. Well, she floated for some time. Lorna Dennison Wilkins told the inquest in Preston Nikki might have had some buoyancy in her claws, which would have dispelled. Once that happened, she would have lost the buoyancy and her body would have sunk under the surface, was my assessment. So the clothing kept her buoyant, enabled her to float for several minutes. She was past the point where the searchers started searching, because you start at ground zero. Ground zero in this instance was where Willow was found and the phone, and then you fan out in a grid-like pattern. And that includes water searches as well as land searches. So by the time people got in the water and were actually looking for her, she'd gone. And I think I found the place where her body might have been hidden for at least some of the time, and why it would not have been found. That that is a speculation, right? But I did that in a previous video. Not going to talk about it here because we are looking at the facts in this stream. Okay. So these are the members of the public. A mother who bumped into Nicola Bulley on the morning of her disappearance said there was nothing of concern. Kay Kernan, a receptionist, told the inquest she spoke to Miss Bulley about her dog Willow while dropping her children at school just after 8:30. She said she was not happy, but who is, on Friday morning school run. She wasn't sad, just how I normally knew her. So just normal. There was nothing of concern. A woman has described the moment she discovered Nicola Bulley's phone and dog. Penny Fletcher, who runs a nearby campsite, told the inquest, I saw a Springer Spaniel loose. It's near the bench going right towards the river where it drops down very steeply. Wouldn't say it was acting chaotic at all, but it was a bit giddy, yes. Springer Spaniels are always giddy. Miss Fletcher found the phone as well as the dog harness and tied Willow to the bench. She later found out it was Miss Bulley's dog and heard that she had gone missing. There's Dickhead Central right there. All right. Nicola Bulley's partner said she's struggling after finding her phone and dog were discovered by a bench. Susan Jones, a retired care worker, told the court around 10 a.m. on January 27th she received a call from Penny, who had discovered Willow and the phone. She bumped into Anne-Marie Fletcher, Miss Fletcher's daughter-in-law, who recognised a photograph of Miss Bulley and her family on the phone lock screen. She then rang the local school before speaking to Miss Bulley's partner, Paul Ansell. Miss Jones told the inquest Anne-Marie spoke on the phone and said that Mr. Ansell, said she's struggling. So we're not going to speculate on any of that. We are going to leave that till tomorrow because Nicola's family are going to speak tomorrow and Nicola's doctor. So we're going to not speculate on her mental health until tomorrow. Okay. 2 women have told the inquest into the death of Nicola Bulley of hearing a scream near the riverside on the morning she vanished. Nurse Helen O'Neill said she was with her dogs in the garden of her house on Allotment Lane. So we've got a location. All right, we've got a location. So do you need a wee noodle? You have to hold it in, I'm afraid. So, okay, that's the tennis club. That's where the other woman heard the noise from. Allotment Lane is here. Now, there's a row of houses. You can see them on some of my footage. It doesn't let you go down Allotment Lane, unfortunately, but there's a few houses here. So, and along here as well. So she was in one of these houses. Then as the crow flies, she's very close, especially if she's that house or that house. She's very close as sound travels to hearing a scream. So if someone heard a scream from the tennis club and then someone heard it from Allotment Lane, kind of doing a little bit of triangulation, then maybe it was Nicola. Maybe it was. Maybe it was. Okay. Not far from the path that leads to the bench overlooking the River Wyre. She told the inquest, I heard a scream. It's not an alarming noise. It was just over in a couple of seconds. I was quite used to hearing the children in the school out back, but it was not that noise. So she can hear the kids playing at the school. So the school's here. So if she's in her house there and she can hear kids playing at the school, then she's definitely going to hear something here. So maybe. Okay. I vividly remember thinking it's unusual at this time. In my head, I had 2 females walking along by the river and one jumped out on the other. I didn't think anything of it until later on. There was no other sounds for me to be concerned about. A second witness, Veronica Klassen, a housewife and club secretary for the village tennis club, said, I was just about to get into the car and heard a scream, a very short scream, and in my immediate thought was somebody is having a bit of fun in the back of the graveyard. Miss Klassen said it was an inhale scream, like a sharp intake of breath. I don't know if you can characterize screams like that. I don't know. Maybe it was like I think it would have been the shock of falling. That's what I think it would have been. Because once you're mouth fills with water and your lungs are filling, you cannot scream. It's a complete fallacy that drowning victims scream. You know, you see it in the movies where they keep coming up like for ages and ages and ages, and it's not, honestly, trust me, it's not like that in real life. Okay, Nicola Bulley's Fitbit, watch and car keys were recovered along with her body. A senior police officer who investigated her disappearance said, ask what was found with her body on February 19th. Lancashire Police Detective Superintendent Rebecca Smith told the inquest her Fitbit watch and her set of Mercedes keys. Nicola Bulley's Fitbit watch stopped recording steps beyond 9:30 a.m. on the day she disappeared. DC, so Detective Constable Keith Greenall, told the inquest Nicola Bulley's iPhone was recovered from the bench. The phone was intact and there was no sign that it had been in the water. Speaking about her Fitbit, he went on, my initial thoughts were that the device lost power on February 4th, 2023. So it obviously kept power for several days, but it did not record any steps beyond 9:30 on January 27th. So even though it had power for several days, there was no steps recorded. So that, along with the medical examiner, the Home Office senior pathologist saying that Nicola was alive and had water and dirt in her lungs, indicates the cause of death was drowning. She'd been dead for a long time. Her Fitbit was with her the whole time on her wrist, and it did not record any steps from 9:30 on January 27th. Okay. So he believes Nicola Bulley fell into the water between 9:18 and 9:30. Because, of course, she could have been sitting down. If she was sitting down on the bench and then she got up to put Willow's harness on, she'd still record a couple of steps, wouldn't she? We'll have a look at the footage. I don't know whether the Fitbit, does the Fitbit record just one or two steps? I don't know. I don't have one. He told the inquest analysis of her iPhone and Fitbit watch data suggests that she was very possibly entered the water. He told the inquest analysis of her iPhone and Fitbit data suggests she was very possibly entered the water at 9:22 a.m. Noodle, what are you chewing? Noodle? Noodle? What are you doing? What are you chewing? What are you chewing? I can hear something plasticky. Yes. I can hear something plasticky. Doesn't sound like your bone. Yes, it doesn't sound like your bone. It sounds like plastic. There's a bone right there. He's got a nyla bone right here. Decided to go and chew plastic. I actually know what he's got. He's got one of these old DVDs that are set up in the corner there. He's gone and chewed one up, I think. I don't care. Who watches DVDs now these days? All right, so 9:22. I hope they do send me these reports. I hope they do, because that's very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. As the first day of Nicola Bulley's inquest comes to a close, several key revelations have come to light. The proceedings, overseen by Coroner James Adley, are set to continue tomorrow. Among those speaking today were Home Office pathologist Alison Armour, while partner Paul Ansell, sister Louise Cunningham, and parents Ernest and Dot sat in the public gallery. Okay, so let's have a look at this story. Anything So died from drowning. Fell in the river before floating downstream. Not just my opinion. These are the expert opinions based on facts. Based on facts of the investigation. So these are just the longer reports. I think we've talked about all of it, honestly. Very possibly fell in the water at 9:22. That is very interesting. Very interesting. I want to know why he thinks that. Dylan, what are you up to? Dylan? What are you up to, Dylan? Asking serious questions. You can ask all the questions you want, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to play some footage. Yeah, joining and choking are pretty much silent. They are, because you can't breathe. You can't breathe. Oh, Dylan. Oh, Dylan. Oh, Dylan. Oh, Dylan. Go and play with your little friends. Leave the grown-ups to it. It's surely your bedtime nearly, Dylan. Dylan, it's 20 to 8. You got to be in bed with the lights off by 8. Your little boy, you got to be up for school in the morning, Dylan. So you better go and do that now. All right, let's play some footage here. Why has YouTube demonetized this stream? Get lost. Demonetizing my streams. Didn't demonetize the one I did this afternoon. No, it's demonetized this one. Not talked about anything bad at all. All right. Timing. Okay, we'll watch this one. We'll watch this one with the what's Noodle chewing? I said it was a DVD. I said it sounded like a DVD. All right, we'll watch this with the sound off so that we can answer. I can answer some questions, as many questions as you like. What are you chewing now? That's it. I can just hear chewing noises. Right, so this is Hall Lane right here. And these are the houses. So the setback from the road. So I don't know if they had a ring doorbell. I don't know that it would go that far. And then this next house here has a high fence. So that's not going to... A ring doorbell ain't going to work on that, is it? Wasn't somebody threatening to report this stream? Well, threatening to report a stream that's reporting facts. Ah, it's reporting facts. Ah. Don't let the facts get in the way of a good conspiracy theory. That's what I'm going to tell you. So we're passing the church now. So the church is set back from the road. If they've got CCTV, it's CCTV that's obviously for the church and not for the public. All right. Reporting the stream. You go and report the stream. Why did I stop? I've no idea why I stopped. Oh, I was looking at the time probably. So it's about 2.5 minutes from the church to the beginning of the river path right here. So that's the river, obviously. Noodle's chewing my chair now. All right, has anybody got any questions? "46 centimetres. Okay, that's at the gauge at the weir, right? Not at the bench. We know from the measurements taken by the diving experts that at the bench, the depth of the water is 4.6 meters, which is 15 feet. So what I'm doing here is I'm timing. Why are they reporting the stream? Because they've got their little panties in a bunch. They've got their panties in a bunch because I'm talking about facts, not conspiracy theories. And the little brain cells are having to work overtime to try to keep the theories alive. Noodle's going to be blocked in a moment. Oh, Noodle. Oh, Noodle. He's here. I don't know whether the Fitbit was a Christmas gift. But Fitbit are in on it. Apple are in on it. The police are in on it. The coroner's in on it. The pathologist's in on it. All the experts are in on it that they're going to bring, that they've brought today. They're all in on it. All the people of St. Michael's are in on it. So, yeah, they're all in on it. How do we reverse YouTube demonetization? I've got to request a human review. So I've requested a human review. It could take up to 7 days. Normally it takes like 2 to 3 days. Sometimes a human looks at it and says, oh yeah, our bots were wrong. And they'll add the monetization to it. Sometimes they won't. I had a Summer Wells video demonetized, and there's nothing in that, nothing in it that is even the most possible thing. I don't know. Sometimes just random, and then a human confirms it. I probably get, I don't know, maybe 5, 6 videos a month demonetized, and they go through human review and they still demonetize them, maybe. I don't know. I don't get it. I think it's true crime. It's probably more than 5 to 6. I'd have to count, because some of them do get they get confirmed as not suitable for monetization. Others don't. So I don't know. I do not know. Why did Sally say she wasn't wearing her Fitbit and it hadn't been synced for 2 days? Maybe Sally didn't know. Don't know. Police are allowed to lie. So if it was part of the police investigation, maybe it was something that they didn't want to tell, they didn't want to talk about at that time. So just said she wasn't wearing it. I don't know. I'd have to go back and listen to what Sally said, at what day it was said. Maybe Sally didn't know at that point. Maybe they didn't have the results, because obviously Nicola was missing when the police conferences were on. Nicola was still missing. So maybe Paul didn't know if she was wearing a Fitbit. Maybe he didn't know. And Maybe he couldn't find it, but didn't know for sure. I don't know. But the Fitbit was there. It's not like someone's come along and put the Fitbit on a dead body. All right. They're not. Yeah, maybe they were checking the data and couldn't comment. Yeah. No, when the police conferences, when Sally was talking, Nicola was missing. So how could they possibly have any data from her Fitbit when they didn't have the actual Fitbit? So the reason why they didn't have any data was because they didn't have the Fitbit. Once they got the Fitbit, they were able to analyze the data to get the data off the Fitbit. So it's not that it would sync. It's not an issue about syncing. It's about actually having the Fitbit. Are the police redacting GPS on Fitbit? I've no idea. The police are saying that the Fitbit was retrieved and they believe, based on the data, that she went into the water at 9:22 a.m. Maybe it was a heart rate thing. Maybe it was a heart rate. Maybe there was a massive heart rate spike at 9:22. So that would be the precise time she went in the water. That is my speculation. But given that Fitbits record like body signals, like heart rates and things like that, then does syncing mean the Fitbit owner has to manually upload the data? I don't know. Kyle? Do you know when your Fitbit syncs with your phone? Yeah. Do you have to do it or does it automatically do it? Automatic. It automatically does it. All right. So, but if the Fitbit, Kyle, does your Fitbit have to be near your phone for it to sync? What?
I don't think so. I don't know. I don't think so.
Oh, he doesn't know. He doesn't think so. Because if they... it will have to be, because it will be Bluetooth. Right? Because they're not the same company, are they? So it's not like, you know, like your iCloud syncs with your other items. So if you do something on your iCloud, it syncs on all your devices. Fitbit is not an Apple product. So the phone would have to be in range. The Fitbit would have to be in range of the phone. So once it was out of range, it wouldn't sync. And I think they only sync every few days anyway. Mine has to be near because of Bluetooth. Yeah. So it will sync through Bluetooth. So once the Fitbit was reunited with her phone and it was charged, it would sync. Or they may be able to get the data off the Fitbit without even syncing it to a phone. Because these technological experts can, you know, they just need the device. So it only syncs when you open the app. All right, so yeah, so if your phone's left on this bench right here that we're seeing, and you floated a mile downstream and you're dead, you're not going to be opening any apps, are you? So once I don't know whether they'd need to sync it or whether they could just get the data off without having to sync it. But whichever way, once that Fitbit was retrieved, then they were able to get the data off the Fitbit. You think Willow has told us the entry point? She absolutely has, yes. She absolutely has, because when Penny arrived, she was at the bench and she ran to the river. Right here, This is where Willow stayed. This is where Willow ran to. This is where Nicola fell in that river. Everything, every little bit of information that we've got, everything, every little bit of information that we've got tells us a little bit more of the story. How long does a Fitbit hold in for? Probably forever, until it sinks. So the bench and the gate are very, very close to each other. And then you've got this, from the bench, you've got this very steep embankment. And then you've got the river. The embankment is a flood defense. So that's an artificial embankment. And then you've got the actual riverbank and that steep drop down. And this is my day. This is my video from the 27th of March. I'm just playing it off my channel. I don't know what I'm talking about here. But this is where I actually go down. I go down to those steps area. There's like a few steps in the bank, but there's no way that if you were drowning, you'd be able to stand up and get to those steps. You wouldn't have the time. You wouldn't have the ability to be able to do that. So it wouldn't matter if where you fell in was only 2 or 3 feet, because once you've fallen onto those rocks, you're not gonna have the time, or that you're gonna be winded, and you're gonna take in water, you're gonna gasp, you're gonna flail around, and you're gonna end up being taken by the current, unfortunately, because of shock. It was just really cold. Didn't Cassie nearly trip me up? Yeah, on the 6th of February she did. I can play you that footage if you want. I'll play that. We'll just look at these rocks, and then I'll play you that footage where Cassie nearly tripped me up. Her clothes would have weighted her down too. Her clothes would actually have made her body more buoyant for a short space of time, probably a few minutes, before they became completely waterlogged, because she was wearing like a gilet, like a padded gilet, and they actually have air inside the lining. So, and the different layers of clothes would have had air between them. So there would have been some extra buoyancy at first. It would have been her boots, I think, that weighted her down. You can see how steep the embankment is just from that shot there. And then this place here is where there's a few steps in. And it does go like down there, I would say, to the bottom, I'd say 10 to 12 feet if you fell down there. Now, yes, if you could stand up, you might be able to clamber your way up. But as one of those experts said, you know, people who say, oh, you can grab onto roots, you can grab onto grass, you can grab onto this and that and the other. You're in shock. Your body is in shock. It's not like you're thinking logically. It's not like you've got an escape plan. It's not like you're going to try to get to these steps and claw your way up with these roots here. I mean, they weren't there in January. That's all spring growth. This was the 27th of March. But you're not thinking. You're in pure panic mode. And that big spike in those are the rocks. So you've fallen onto those rocks in temperature that's nearly freezing. And you take a big gulp of water. You're trying to think about what to do, and you can't think. You can't think. Look at these rocks here. And within 20 to 30 seconds, due to cold water shock, you're unconscious. You're unconscious. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you can swim really well. It doesn't matter. Try falling in freezing cold water onto rocks and then try to swim once your body goes into shock. Try to do that. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad it was only a few seconds. Like, certainly within 30 seconds, she would have been unconscious. And then within a few minutes, and of course, until you actually die, your body's buoyant anyway because of the air in your lungs. So if you're unconscious, I mean, I did a video all about it, saying that if she'd lost consciousness by hitting her head on the rocks, then it's gonna take you several minutes to actually expel all the air from your lungs. So if the water is taking you downstream, which is in hold on a minute, is in this direction, if the river is taking you around there, within 6 minutes you're at the weir. You're nowhere near where people think you are, where people think you went in the water. So within 6 minutes she was at the weir, going at 1 meter per second. Work it out yourself. It's about 400 yards, approximately. That's just working it out on Google Maps. It's approximately 400 yards. And you are floating at 1 meter per second. So you're still alive at this point. You're probably going to be alive for 2 to 3 minutes until you've expelled all the air from your lungs. And your clothes are also going to keep you buoyant for a few minutes. So she'd have been close to that weir. And once you're over the weir, then your body's gonna go with the tide, because it's tidal once you're over the weir. So all of this tells a story. All of this tells a story. There's me picking Cassie's poo up. All right, I'll show you the video from it stops. Hold on. Please hold 1 second. I'll show you the video from 6th of February where Cassie knocks me in. Oh, nearly knocks me in. Tries to knock me in. Hold on. What are we doing here? Can't think which. Oh, I know which live stream it was in. Okay, we'll do it from this one. All right, so I'll have to reshare. Okay, so unfortunately it's in vertical mode because I was live. I was live when this was filmed. So it's in vertical mode. So that's me at the weir. I'll just move it on a little bit. So this is the 6th of February. It's the day that Peter Folding was there. You know, when he concluded that she wasn't in the river. when she was. All right, so we'll do it from here. So there's lots of people around at this point, but you get a good feel for what the terrain was like. It was actually quite a warm day, the 6th of February. January, the end of January was colder than this day, but it wasn't frosty. It was cold though at the end of January. Yeah, bell end. Yeah, he is. Complete bell end. She stumbled and fell in. I don't understand why people find it difficult to understand that someone can fall. I mean, I don't know. It might just be, but I fall at least once a week. I can break fall. I know how to fall. I never hurt myself. I've never even had so much as a bruise. But when you're close to a river that's very cold and you fall in, you know, the vast majority of accidents are inconsequential. Unfortunately, just occasionally, they are utterly disastrous and tragic. And that's exactly what happened in this case. I don't understand how people, even if you've only got 2 brain cells, how you can't get that. I don't get it. I don't get it. Please, can we not call balloon not folding? All right, we won't call him any more names. I wonder how his book sales going. I don't know how his book sales going. So this is Cassie. Cassie would not go in. When I went on the 2nd of May, she went in. She jumped in. Now, I don't know whether it's because the river was lower and she could see the bottom, or I don't know what assessment she makes. I really don't know. I'd like to be inside Cassie's brain for maybe just an hour. I don't think I could handle it for any longer because she's quite like, she's just on the ball with stuff. I don't know what assessment she makes, but on the 2nd of May, she jumped straight in. Well, Nicola was in the river, yes. She was in the river. She wasn't there, though. She wasn't there. That area had been thoroughly searched by that time. She wasn't there. She wasn't there. She'd gone in minutes. She'd gone downstream towards the weir in minutes. She would have reached the weir in about 6 minutes. So we're nearly up to the point where now I'm stood several feet away from the edge. But if I'd have been stood right near the edge, Cassie would have knocked me in. I stumbled backwards. I feel she died there. She died there. Every time I go, I get this feeling. If I was psychic, I'd tell you that it's a psychic feeling, but I'm not psychic, and I'm just saying I know she died there. That's all I'm saying. I know she died there. We're nearly up to the point where she knocks me in now. Look at her. She does it on purpose. Let's just wait. Dead innocent. She'd watch. Boom. Now look, I took, he doesn't look much on the thing, but I took about, I don't know, 2 or 3 steps back. And if I'd have been closer, I'd have gone straight in backwards. And there was people stood at the top there. They would have rescued me. I wouldn't have died. But that just shows you, if you've got a dog, you know, these things happen. I mean, sometimes, like Tilly, you know how big Tilly is. Tilly's running and she'll just kind of collide into me and she knocks me flying. She literally knocks me flying. Like, Tilly has knocked me on my arse more times than I could even begin to imagine. Because she's heavy. Now, Cassie's the same breed as Willow. If they jump up unexpectedly, it's not hard. They're not heavy dogs, Springer Spaniels. Willow only looks about the same size as Cassie, maybe a shade bigger than Cassie. And they make you stumble. And it doesn't have to be a massive fall on your arse like Tilly would provide. It's just a stumble. And once you stumble and you slip, when the ground is wet and it's steep, unfortunately, it's just tragic. Just tragic. Yeah, I think I wasn't closer. Yeah. I'd have been rescued because there was people right there. But unfortunately, there was no one there. Unfortunately. No one was there in those few minutes. So between the person who left the field at 9:15 and then there was no one on the field until Penny took her dog for a walk and got there just after 9:30. And she'd already gone. She was probably already at the weir by the time Penny got there. Yeah, I mean, if you're not expecting it and you're just taken off balance, it's sad, it's a shame, but it's unfortunately, it's just really, really sad. It's just really, really sad. The vast majority of falls, trips, stumbles, there's nothing more of it, right? You might get a grazed knee at the most, or I don't even get bruised when I fall because I break fall, but you're going to get a tiny, tiny injury. If Willow had tripped Nicola up or jumped at her in any other location, it would have been nothing. It would have been nothing. But unfortunately, just in that location at that time, it ended so tragically. So tragically. When am I going live tomorrow? I'm not sure what time. I might do it like today. I might do a short live at lunchtime to cover the morning and then a longer live in the evening to cover the whole day. I might do it like that. So a short live around maybe 1 o'clock-ish and then a longer live about 6 o'clock. My time, whatever that is in your time. Yeah, wrong time, wrong place. Yeah. Yeah. Just standing there, that shade too close to the bank, not being able to regain your footing because the bank's steep and it's slippery. It was slippery on the 6th. It was slippery. Just that bit too close, not being able to regain your footing, and you're just gone, and it's cold. And just for those few minutes, there was no one around, no one on the field to actually help. I trip constantly. I do, Connie. I do. I trip over my own feet constantly. About 10 feet away is the range that the Fitbit will work. Okay, so once you're 10 foot away, there's no... So they'd have had to wait to recover the Fitbit. So I'm pointing out the bench from there. So you can still see the gate from that location there. That's just coming onto the upper field. The hedgerow, on my left-hand side as I'm walking, that hedgerow right there, that's the lower field and then the upper field. And you can still see the bench and the gate from that location. So if that woman who was watching the gate because she was expecting someone else to come along, if she was on this path right here walking towards the gate, she would have been able to see anybody came onto the field. And you can see it's wide open. apart from that hedgerow between the upper and lower field, which you can see right through in the winter. Cassie's doing another poo. I do clean it up. I'm not Ron, whose dog pooed live on Sky News. Yeah, it's wide open. So there's nobody hiding. There's nothing. There's nowhere anybody could be hiding. Nobody came onto that field, and sadly, it just became really tragic. The welfare check was the 10th of January, so 17 days before she disappeared. If your dog's got to go, your dog's got to go. Yeah. Yeah, Ron's dog. Bless him. Yeah, but it wouldn't sync with the phone. This is the thing. It wouldn't sync with the phone. So the question was, why did Sally, who was one of the police officers, she did the first few press conferences, Sally, why did she say that they hadn't got any data from her Fitbit? And because Nicola had her Fitbit with her. So it's not going to sync because it's not connected to the phone's GPS. So once the phone and the Fitbit are reunited, then they'll sync. So maybe the Fitbit did record where Nicola's body went, at least until it ran out of charge. I don't know. We don't know those details. Yeah, I think that's what they're planning to do tomorrow, because we're hearing from Nicola's family and we're hearing from Nicola's doctor tomorrow. And after all the witnesses, then thank you for becoming a member, Connie. That's very kind of you. Welcome to the Secret Agents Club. It is very easy, so easy for just things to happen that you don't expect. Well, I don't know if Fitbits work either, Terry. I don't know, because I don't have one. But my son has one, so. They said they got it with her, but then I said, but they didn't have to tell anyone anything. Yeah, no, they don't have to tell anything to anyone. They don't. But also, they might not have fully known whether they'd be able to recover the Fitbit. Even if Paul thought she might have it with her, it might have fallen off during the 23 days she was missing. So they weren't going to say, well, once we find her, then we'll get her Fitbit. They're not going to say that, because they might not. They might not recover the Fitbit. So all they could say at the time was, no, they've not got any data from it. So they have the data now, which is the important thing. Okay, I'm going to go, I think. Stumble's very believable. I mean, yeah. Yeah. I'm going to go and I'll be back tomorrow. Thank you, Jennifer, for the $10. That's very kind of you. Very, very kind. Thank you so much. Oh. Oh. Yeah, I don't do that many steps. I used to, when I used to go to Bolton every day to work, I used to do a whole massive bunch of steps. I don't these days, though. Oh, thank you. I will do. Buy him some chew toys so that Noodle doesn't chew my house to bits. He's not been too bad. He's really not been too bad. He can chew my tax bill any day of the week. All right. All right, I'm going to go. I'll be back tomorrow. So thank you for being, in the main, respectful in the chat. I did know that there would be maybe some less than respectful responses, but I think the majority of people have been respectful. Thank you for the donations, jumping in there right at the end. Thank you for the £5, Janine. That's very kind of you. So yeah, thank you as always to the mods, and I'll see you tomorrow. So I think we'll do a lunchtime stream about 1ish, and then we'll do a bigger stream after the inquest has concluded in the evening, maybe 6ish. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you for the £9.99. That's very kind of you. So I shall see you tomorrow. I've also got a recorded video waiting to go. So I'll put that out later, maybe in about 3 hours, I'll put that out. I can't put a bunch of things out together because YouTube ruins the notifications. So maybe in about 3 hours, 2 or 3 hours, I'll put the video out that I recorded this morning. So that's Summer Wells. So enjoy that video if you're following the Summer Wells case, and I will see you tomorrow lunchtime to talk about the final day of Nicola Bulley's inquest. All right, guys, have a good night or day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.